Hello everyone and welcome to this video. It's about an introduction to Python 3, okay? So it's an introduction to show you what we can do with Python 3, okay? So there is no code provided, okay? Only examples to see what is Python 3 and what you can do with Python 3. So let's dig into this. So what is Python 3? Python 3 is a high-level programming language. It means that Python 3 does not directly communicate with the hardware. There is an abstraction, okay? So it's not directly communicating with the hardware. So there is some layers in order for the language to proceed what it's going to do, okay? So it's making the process of developing a program simpler, okay, and more understandable, but at a cost, okay? It's slower. So it's a high level abstraction that's going on with Python 3. So that it's not fast like low level abstraction. So let me clarify what I mean by abstraction, okay? So there is levels of programming languages. So there is the low level language. There is little to not abstraction. So like those languages are like machine language and assembly language. Those are communicating with the hardware directly, okay? So there is no functions, only if you build from scratch one, okay? And this is the abstraction. So for example, let's take a look at this feature. If you do have a function, okay? So a function is somehow an abstraction, okay? So it's not directly communicating with the hardware, so there is some layers of programming that's going on in between. So you may ask, if you build from scratch definition of a function, then yeah, it can be, there is no abstraction. But the higher you will get on the level of language, the higher the abstraction. So on the middle level language, we do have C and C++, where the abstraction over here is medium. It's medium because at some point we are able to use pointers if you know them. So a pointer is interacting with the memory of the system. It's interacting with the hardware, okay? So it is at some point a low level language. So we didn't put them on the low because there is functions on the medium level. So the use of the functions and the oriented object programming are some on the medium level. So there is an abstraction over there. And this is why the medium level languages are having a medium abstraction. And on the high level language, like Python, that's the one that you are studying today, Python 2.0, Python 3.0, they are all the same. The level of the abstraction is high. So when there is high level of abstraction, it means that when you write a code in Python, it does go through multiple things in order to interact with the hardware. Okay, it's not directly, it's not fast, but it is simpler, okay, and less complicated. So there is the cause of complication. So on the low level language, the complication is high, and on the high level language, the complication is usually low, okay, mostly low, because and on the medium level, it's in between. It's not high and not low. So those are the levels of the programming languages. And now let's continue with the definition of Python 3. So Python 3 is a general purpose programming language. What does that mean? It means that you can do whatever you want with it, okay? You can make games, you can make websites, scripts, you can make data science with it. So it is not built for one and only one thing, okay? So, for example, let's take a look if you know the SQL language. The SQL is specially for the databases, okay? For manipulating a database and working with it. But Python 3, you can interact with the database and not using SQL. So Python 3 can take multiple shapes and forms. Okay, it can be modulated. Okay, it's not one. It is not defined to do one and only one thing, but it is general purpose. This is why Python 3 is known for being interactive and very beautiful to use and very useful to use. Okay, so Python 3 is also dynamic typed. It means that the compiler or the interpreter assign a type to all the variables at runtime. For example, in C, in the language C, if you want to initiate an integer, we would write int integer equals 5 point virgule point semicolon. Okay, and on Python it's as simple as writing integer equals 5. So there is no need for the type, but we can specify later if we want an integer or we want a float. So this is why we said that Python is dynamically typed. Okay. And now let's continue. So Python 3 is garbage collected. Garbage collection relieve the programmer from doing manual memory management. So those things are used usually on the low level language, okay? On the high level language, those things are provided for us automatically, okay? So we don't need to care about the memory or the loss of the system. We only want to care about our program and how it's going to run, okay? So the garbage collection relieves the programmer from doing manual memory management, where the programmer specifies what objects to do to deallocate and return to the memory system and when to do so. Okay, Python 3 will do it automatically for us. So Python 3 supports multiple programming paradigms, including object-oriented and functional programming. There is object-oriented programming tools on Python 3, and there is also function tools. So you can play with functions and object-oriented programming. Also, multiple things. Okay, those are not only features on Python 3. There is also other things than that. Okay. And now let's continue. So let's dig into the Python history. Python history. So Guido van Rossum began working with Python in the late 1980s as a successor of the ABC programming language, and first released it in 1991 as Python 0.9.0. It's quite old, so don't misunderstood Python and think that it is young programming language. It is quite old. For instance, it's older than me. So there's a lot of things going on around this language, and it has something. It has some strong background. Okay. So after Python 0.9 was released, Python 2.0 was released in the year 2000 and introduced few features such as list comprehension, cycle detecting garbage collection, reference counting, and Unicode support. So Python 3 released in 2008 was a major revision that is not completely backward compatible with the earlier version. What does that mean? It means that Python 3 is not compatible with Python 2 and Python 0. Okay? So Python 3 is somehow a new version of Python. So you cannot write a code on Python 3 and want it to run on a compiler of Python 2.0. It won't work, and the Python 3 is somehow independent from Python 2 and Python, okay, in general. So Python 3 is somehow a new programming language, not like Python 2, and mostly the things that work on Python 2.0 won't work on Python 3.0, okay? So let's continue. What can you do with Python 3? So This is a big question, so you can do everything with Python 3. Web applications, scripts, programs, automation, games, displaying chart, extracting data from website, everything, okay? But writing code only using Python 3 would take quite a lot of time. So they built libraries that would shortcut our work to achieve things with quite the same result using libraries. Okay, so they make the work easier for us, the programmers, because they care about the final result. So they build libraries. So you don't need to build everything from scratch. There is shortcuts, okay? But you should take time to study the libraries that you are using. You can even change some libraries to adapt them to your need. So those are in general the open source libraries or the libraries of the company that you are working with. So you can change them in order to adapt to your need. Okay. So let's take a look at some libraries that are famous, and what you can do with them. So the first one that I picked is Pandas. So Pandas is a Python library used for working with data sets. It has functions for analyzing, clearing, exploring, and manipulating the data. So here is an example of a data set. So over here you do have an ID on this data set. You have an array of ID, a row of ID and name and family name and email and the password. So you have those arrays, for example. So what does pandas provide you to do with? You is provide you to analyze data. Okay. For example, if you want to take this column over here, you can, for example, take only the ID, and from there you would search for an ID that has the number one, and from there you can get all row, uh, this row. Okay, you can get the name of the person that you are looking for, or you can search by name or family name. You can play with data however you want. Okay, and from there you can also clean the data, explore the data, and manipulate the data. So you can do a lot of things with it. Okay, and now let's continue. So this is the second library that I picked. It's called NumPy. So NumPy is a Python library used for working with arrays. So in Python, we do have lists that have serve the purpose of arrays, but they are slow to process. So NumPy aims to provide an array object that is up to 15%, 50 time faster than traditional Python lists. Okay, yes, you can build things that can be faster than the built-in tools for Python 3. So here is an example of an array. You do have one, two, three, four, five. So this is an array. So in order to process this data, okay, it is faster. For example, if you want to make matrix multiplication or array multiplication, it will it won't take a lot of time using NumPy, but it would take a lot of time using the provided list. Okay, uh, it is a lot faster. And now let's take a look at the next library. So Matplotlib is a plotting library for the Python. It provides an object-oriented API for embedded plots into applications. Okay, so you can plot things into your applications. Okay, so it's for example, if you want to plot a chart in a program, you can do it using Matplotlib. Okay, so here's an example. So plot that you can make directly using this library. So there's the line plot over here. There's the line plot. There is the histogram, and there is the scatter plot. Also, there is a lot more plots than this, and you can plot them. For example, if you want to make a program on your own, you can plot them directly using this program. Okay, so it is a very useful library. I've used it a lot for data science purposes, and yeah, it's working just great. And now let's dig into the next library. So TensorFlow. TensorFlow is a free and open source software library for machine learning and artificial intelligence. So TensorFlow can be used in a wide variety of programming languages, most notably Python. Okay, so here is an example of classification problem. So you do have here red dots, and you do have here blue dots. In order to separate them, you need to use TensorFlow. You can use other machine learning libraries uh, such as PyCharm, PyTorch. You can use them. So here is TensorFlow what it does. So it will plot, for example, this line to separate the red dots from the blue dots. Okay, you can do a lot more things than that, but this is the basic idea. So it does recognize the red as a red and the blue as a blue. So there is difference between them, so it separates them directly using a line. Okay, there is a lot more things to do with it. For example, you can separate them with some mathematical functions. Okay, is in linear regression and a lot more things than that. So yeah, this is the basic. And now let's dig to the next one. Okay, so those were some libraries and what you can do with them. Okay, there's a lot more than that. It depends on what you want and what you want to do with it. Okay, so you can combine two or more libraries together. So for example, if you want, let's take a look at an example I didn't give you. Streamlit. So Streamlit will build for you web applications that won't cost you a lot of time and are extremely efficient. For example, you can plot with Matplotlib on Streamlit on your web application, and it will work just fine. So yeah, this is it for today. Thank you for attention, and don't forget to subscribe, like, and follow for more. Okay. Thank you for your attention, and bye bye.